behave yourself. Hold on.
Yes, ma'am.
Give people some time to find us.
How do we find you?
I don't know. We should be live on Divine Collaboration right now.
We already got 3 people.
We already have three people.
Okay. Well, I can't find us.
Okay. Well, we'll take care of it. All right. Good evening. Welcome to Journeys with Judy. I'm here in Spring Grove, Pennsylvania with Katie Anna Clark. We're going to interview her today. Many of you know her as the teacher of soul, and tonight you're going to get to know her on a different level.
Oh,
Welcome,
wow.
Katie. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Katie and I have known each other for, I don't know, almost 6 years now? Not 6 years.
Been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. I call myself a second generation Katie Anna student because I was taught by one of her students and was introduced to Heart Mind Circles through my teacher, and that is when I met Katie Anna. And some of you have heard, if you've watched other videos when we would speak of Katie Anna, that she used to scare the hell out of me. She always laughs when I say that, but the truth is, I would sit in circle, and everything that came out of her mouth was so true that it terrified me. And I thought she could see right through to my soul, which she could.
I was just going to say, we can.
Which she could. So, it was a little scary in the beginning when you weren't ready to face those truths, but I was there, so it meant I was ready on a certain level. And then you sit across from Katie Anna in the chair of love, and 100%, there you go, you got it all.
I could never understand why people call it the hot seat. Because it truly is the chair of love.
It is the chair of love, there's no doubt. But at that moment, you're not sure what's going to come up. It's kind of a hot seat.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right. So here we go. First question. It's a tough one. Where were you born and raised?
Spring Grove, Pennsylvania. I literally have lived within a 3-mile radius all my life, and since the age of 9, I don't know, about a 400-yard radius, you know.
So you felt very safe in Spring Grove.
Safe in Spring Grove. Not necessarily in Spring Grove, but around my parents.
Okay.
Definitely around my mom and dad.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
safety was never an issue around my parents.
Excellent. Do you have any siblings?
Yes, I'm one of 7 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
I'm the next to the youngest.
Wow. Okay. How many of them are still living?
All of us are still living except my sister Debbie.
Your sister Debbie. Okay. How would you describe your childhood?
How would I describe my childhood? I think a normal childhood of someone growing up in the 50s with parents who, I mean, I was raised as a Christian, as a Lutheran, and so church was a big part of our lives, and my parents raised me. I'm really blessed because my parents raised me loving Jesus and loving the good old hymns, and so things happen like everybody, but I just knew that as long as I was around my parents, I was safe, and so I didn't have fun as a kid though. No, school was torturous for me.
Why is that?
Well, let's see, I stayed 2 years in first grade because I didn't know that I had to focus on the teacher in the front. I didn't really like school because I could see angels, and I would rather play with angels than listen to the teacher telling me reading, writing, and arithmetic. So I never really got used to going to school. School was not a happy place for me, ever. No, that's not true. Until I went to college when I was in my 40s. Then college was a happy place, but...
in your 40s?
Yeah, in my 40s.
Okay. So how did you graduate high school?
No.
You didn't? Okay.
I quit in 9th grade. I was pregnant, and I had my first baby when I was 16. And my son Lloyd, who many of you know, when I was 18.
Okay. All right. What is one of your fondest childhood memories?
Oh gosh. Fondest childhood memory. There's so many. Christmas Eve. We would go to church and we would have the candlelight thing at the end. But then Dad and Mom always took us to see the lights. And back in those days, people really did some really cool lights.
Right.
You know, with carolers outside, and you know, I would think Christmas Eve was it was like a magical time. But I have a lot. I mean, you know, Williams Grove, growing up, you know, around family. Daddy had a pool. We had a big swimming pool here, so cousins and aunts and uncles were here, you know, almost every day in the summer.
So you're surrounded by family.
Was surrounded by family.
That's excellent. What was challenging for you as a child? We already talked about school being challenging. At what age did you realize that everybody didn't see the angels?
When I was at around 9 or 10, my two grandfathers died pretty close, within 6 months of each other, I think. And I could see the angels, and especially Grandpa Mummert. I could see his body of light, and my Aunt Marg and my Aunt Bern wanted me to touch his body. Touch Pop, touch Pop. And I'm like, but Pop's over there, and I kept trying to tell my sister Debbie, and she would shush me. Because I could see the angels, and you know, it's wild. When my granddaughter Courtney was about that age, she went to a funeral, and she looked at me and she said, Grandma, do you see them? They're everywhere. And she was mesmerized by all the angels. And I could say, yes, I see them. But no one, and that's when I realized that there was something different about me, strange about me.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's how I imprinted it.
Right. Is that when you shut them down? Did you shut them out at that point?
I always still knew angels were around, but they were not on the forefront of my life. The outer world started taking control.
So was that the most challenging thing for you as a child, would you say? Or no?
No, just being in a physical body and having to go to school.
It was just awful.
It was awful. It was really, really awful. Yeah.
Okay.
There were mean kids at school.
There are mean kids at school.
Yeah.
What was your most challenging thing as a teenager? Was it being a teenage mom?
No, being a mom was easy for me.
Yeah.
Being a mom was easy. That was a good time in my life. Probably around age 13, 14, you know, what was it, about a year ago, everybody was saying, me too, me too, me too. Well, I could have said me too, but I don't get into that stuff. And challenging was walking down a school corridor and having boys grab at your breasts in front of male teachers who condoned it.
And nothing happened.
And again, I imprinted, well, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. So that was probably the most, you know, challenging, of just not understanding how they would allow that.
Right. Wow. That would be extremely disappointing. What was most challenging about being a young adult?
Being married to my first husband.
Okay. Okay.
You know, we were two young kids that got married, wounded, and those wounds came out in the marriage.
Now, did you marry him because you were pregnant?
Yep.
Okay. And how long were you married?
14 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, actually, I thought I was going to die by the age of 30. So it was okay. I was going to stay because I was going to die, but for some reason, I kept telling myself, and the closer I got to 30, realizing I was going to die, finally it was like, okay, you need to get out of here.
I'm not going to die, so I need to make another
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
I mean, but we're good friends. You know, we brought two beautiful kids into the planet, and there's been a lot of healing. There's been a, you know.
We're together at family functions all the time.
Yeah, and we've healed. I'll share something that he did when I was 38 and something happened
Okay.
to me.
Okay. What's the most challenging thing for you right now?
Getting the work of Anna out.
And why do you think that is so challenging right now?
We have so much to teach. And getting those messages to the masses are just difficult.
It's going to happen.
That's what they keep telling me.
It's going to happen. So we're going to jump ahead since you brought up Anna. Who is Anna?
Are you sure you don't want to start at age 38?
Oh, well, okay, whatever. If that's what you would prefer,
Yeah, I
okay.
would. Yeah.
Put that on hold. We're
That'll
gonna
help
get
people
back to Anna.
That'll help people understand who Anna is.
Okay. What jobs have you had up to this point?
Jobs?
Jobs.
I've only worked for people out. I've only been employed by an employer for 6 months out of my entire life.
And what did you do then?
Nurse's aide.
Okay.
When I got divorced, I was 30. I didn't have a high school education. I in my dream time, they told me to go to this nursing home. And the next day at church, somebody said, "Hey, Katie, they're hiring at this nursing home." And so the next day, I had never driven in snow. I hadn't driven within a 5-mile radius up until that point.
And you were
I was very
30.
sheltered. I was very sheltered.
Wow.
Yeah. And I got in the car. It was icy. The roads were icy. And you know where, not the Galleria Mall, the other mall, Westminster Mall is?
Mhm.
There's a big hill going up there, and I slid down it 3 times.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm down at the bottom of the hill, and I'm going, I can't do this. And the angels said, "You can do this." And I said, "Okay, help me get up that hill." And one last time I got up, and I found out I was hired because if I came to apply for a job on a day like that, I would come to work.
That is very true.
Yeah.
And you were there for 6 months?
I was there for 6 months. I met Johnny there, and that was a soul agreement. And I met Johnny there, and I brought him home. I started work in January. Johnny moved in, and Johnny was my husband for 27 years. It was a soul thing. I was supposed to go to that nursing home.
Okay, so
To
you
meet
met
Johnny.
Johnny. People may think Johnny was another person that worked there. Who's Johnny?
Johnny moved into the nursing home. He had had, up to that point, he had had 9 brain operations. They took out his whole left brain. And they said he was a zombie. And he was.
Mm-hmm.
But I was giving him a shower, and I was talking to him like a human being. And he laughed. And I said, "Do you understand what I'm saying?" Long story short, over a period of 6 months, I proved that he could think. He knew what was going on, and he took tests up at Hershey Medical Center, laying down. He had a college IQ sitting up. He had a shunt that was malfunctioning and putting all this pressure into his brain. He couldn't think. He drooled like a baby. So we proved that it was, so for, I guess, 4 years he had lived with a malfunctioning shunt.
Oh my gosh.
Well, people thought he only had a half a brain. That's all he was capable of.
Right.
So my kids and I brought him home. My parents helped me build the house down where I lived and made it handicapped accessible. We taught him to walk. We taught him to talk. And he had a good life. He had 9 more brain surgeries to undo all the mess that they had done. They did
And you were married to him for how long?
27 years.
27 years. Wow. What a gift.
Johnny was one of my greatest teachers. I believe part of the reason I am who I am today was because anyone who met John when we had school here, people said that John was the heart of the house.
Mm.
And anybody who met Johnny said he was an earth angel. Maybe he was, I don't know. I just know he was my earth angel.
That's beautiful. Okay. How did your spiritual journey begin? Is this when we talked about 38?
With a soul boot. At the age of 38, I had a soul boot. I was going to become a deaconess in the Lutheran church. Up until that time, I went to church every week. I was on the choir. It was a good little Lutheran. And I literally, loved Jesus with all my heart. And so I was going to become a deaconess, and they said, not in this lifetime. You've done that way too many lifetimes. And I had what was known as a nervous breakdown.
Okay.
And because back in those days we went to therapists who were really tough, and the therapist looked at me and said, "You were good, but I was better. I broke you."
Wow.
And literally, she broke me.
Now, when you say that broke you, where did you go to?
Humpty
These
Dumpty
days there's
came falling
rehab.
down. Well, back in those days, you went to rehab.
Okay.
Inner child work. Inner child work was the big thing back in the 80s,
Okay.
early 90s. And so they drugged me up, put me on a plane, and that was the first time I was away from home. First time I was on a plane, went to Florida. Found out later that the therapist that helped me have my breakdown also was getting a kickback from the rehab. She was sending a lot of people there.
Wow.
But it was the first time they all called me the country girl because I'd never been on a bus where you put the money in, and I was never in a cab, you know.
Never on a plane.
Never on a plane. But it was the greatest thing that could have happened to me in my life. One, I could have been that therapist because I am good.
Mm-hmm.
I do see. And she saw. But she didn't know how to do that with someone who was fragile. With me, they always show me a teacup.
Mm-hmm.
They show me a teacup, and that tells me that someone's fragile, to be really, really gentle. There are people that you can push,
Right.
but there are many people that you have to be gentle with. And so the big thing is, now I didn't, I pieced this all together as I grew and evolved. I got away from my tribe because up until 38, I was unconscious. I didn't question anything. Nothing. Talk about bags over your head. And, I was a reactive creator. I wasn't a conscious creator. And so getting away from my tribe, I began to ask questions. And within 2 years of that, by the time I was 40, I went to my minister and I said, I can't come to church anymore because I'm not a poor and penitent sinner. I am a being of light and love, and I can't come to church anymore. And he was shocked. He thought for sure I was having another breakdown. But
send her away again.
But I was changing because and it was a hard time. I wrote a book called Crossroads, Living a Soul, guided life, and it was a hard time. I went through the dark night of the soul because I describe myself as a mystic. Even as a little girl, I knew I was connected to God.
Okay, we have newbies here. What is the dark night of the soul?
For me, the dark night of the soul is when you cannot feel the love of God coming into you. You feel shut off from everyone and everything. And it's not the soul that needs to be rescued, it's the personality.
Okay.
And so during that dark night of the soul, it's actually a blessing because it's a time of fire and illumination and transformation. And that's what I write about in my book, that was a good time. It didn't feel good because I would lay in bed and cry, please take me back. I can't do this. I can't do what I was born to do, and I didn't even know what I was born to do back then.
Right.
I had no clue because remember, I went to church and the soul was something to be saved.
Yes.
Not something that wanted to express itself through my life, and so I started discovering, parts of myself, and I got a Reiki attuned, and that I think was the biggest catalyst because when I got my Reiki attunement, people were like, I saw Jesus, I saw Mary, I saw Kuan Yin, I saw colors. I'm like, I didn't see anything.
I didn't see anything either.
But I listened to what my teacher said. She said, go home and lay your hands on yourself because you're the most important person you will ever lay your hands on. And then I started giving sessions. And the very first session I gave to a friend, she's on the table and I'm just doing regular Reiki. And all of a sudden her aunt comes in and I see this, the spirit of her aunt comes in. And then I see my friend kind of leave her body and they had this joyous reunion. But they wouldn't let me see what was going on. And after the session, my friend sat up and she said, I think my aunt just died while I was on the table. And I knew she had, and I said, well, why don't you check it out when you go home? And that was before we had cell phones that could call anybody.
Right.
Well, while she was on my table, her mother had called her to tell her that her aunt had died. And the joyous reunion I was seeing was her aunt. And she said, my aunt told me to tell my mom, my Catholic mom, tell my sister I'm okay. Wow. So the messages just started coming like that. The more I laid hands on people, the more my intuitive gifts just flowed out. It just was a natural progression. The dark night of the soul happened, and with the dark night of the soul, like I said, it's a period of illumination and transformation. The angels started coming back in. The first angel that came to kind of rescue me, I knew Mac, my guardian angel, was always around, But the first angel that came to kind of rescue me was Ariel. I was getting a session from somebody, a Reiki session. And Ariel came and said, we're here to help you heal your heart. And they brought this beautiful pink gray energy. And for the next year and a half, I cried and I cried and I cried. And at times I didn't even know what I was crying about. You know? And then Archangel Metatron came in. Metatron is one of those angels that, and he continues to be, you know, we say he, but it's really they, continue to be my teachers. Metatron is this angel that many believe sits at the right side of God. And he loves us. He loves children. He loves the people here on this planet. And he's here to shine his golden light so that we might remember, literally remember who we are.
Okay. All right. So you go down to Florida for rehab.
Yep. That was in 1987.
How did you hear about Reiki?
Rita, my partner at the time, we had gone over to the...
Hold up.
Oh, gosh. Yes, I'm bisexual.
Business partner?
No, she was my partner at the time.
Okay.
And she was really good because she pushed me. I had gone over there for a breath workshop. And at that point in my life, I kind of had what they called a fragment of my personality. When people would get angry, I would get really little.
Okay.
And so when I'm laying on the floor, they did this drumming and chanting, and then 2 hands went here and 2 hands went on my feet, and I was like, when I find out what this is, when I can talk, I'm going to ask them what this is. Because that's when I felt the reconnection. And so Rita drove me over to Reiki 1. Got me to, she actually paid.
Wow.
For my Reiki 1.
I always joke and say Reiki 1 is that was my gateway drug.
Yeah.
It opened me up to the whole world.
I think everybody on the planet should be attuned to Reiki 1. I really, truly do. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. So you get your Reiki 1 attunement. You start listening to the angels again.
Start listening to the angels again.
And that's when
I
you
stopped
first
going to church.
as people would say, you first started seeing dead people.
Yes. Well, no. I could always see dead people because like they would walk around the house and stuff, and
you just knew
but
not
I
to
just
talk about it?
like I was just like, nah, we're not gonna go there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. They were always around.
Okay. So when did you open yourself up to receive messages from the souls?
Gosh, that wasn't until I was with Alan at the time.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was 50.
That's that's a 10-year span.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked with the angels. I was known as the Reiki lady and the angel lady in the 90s.
Okay.
Around New York.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew me as the angel lady. But I was still kind of in hiding.
Okay.
You don't know what I mean by that.
No, not exactly.
It continues to this day. You ready?
I can't wait to hear all about it.
Well, hiding for me was I still wanted to be like I was normal. Because I didn't know that I was normal.
Okay.
I didn't know that seeing angels and talking to God and Jesus showing up in your room and literally showing up in your room was normal. And so I didn't talk about those things. I didn't share those things. I didn't share them until I was 49 years old. But there was a psychic that came to York in the early 90s. Probably I was about 45. And my friend Patricia B. Learned wanted me to get a reading. And I'm like, I don't need a reading. I'm connected. You can count my readings on probably one hand that I've had from other people, other than students. But I went to lunch with them, and this psychic, this medium said to Patricia, well, do you know who she is? And Patricia said, what do you mean? Well, she's a traveler. And I felt so embarrassed. I was like, I don't want you to, something's going on with your phone. Is that okay?
It's fine.
Yep. I don't want you to, I didn't give her permission to read me.
Oh.
And all of a sudden, this woman's telling my friend how I go to sleep and I travel, which was true. that's where I learned everything. I haven't had physical teachers other than my Reiki. Now, books, I read books, but I didn't have physical teachers. The angels, the ascended masters, Jesus was my teacher, but I was still in hiding with it. And so I didn't want people, because I didn't know that it was normal to go to bed and travel.
Okay.
Did you know that?
I didn't know that until I met you.
Yeah, I didn't know that people were doing it.
I still don't remember any of my travels yet. I work on it though.
Oh, wow. I mean, we limit ourselves. We really do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was really embarrassed for a very long time. And I still kind of work with that with Anna, which we'll get to in a minute. When I was with Alan, 50, we were, they just started popping in. And then I had to make boundaries with the people. Because, the world of spirit is desperate. People who go to meetings and stuff, they're desperate for any sign, any message that their loved one's still alive.
Yeah.
Well, not that they're desperate, but they want us to hear that they're still alive too.
Right.
They're knocking on a door and no one's listening.
Yes.
And so it works both ways. And so, Jenny and I experienced that a couple weeks ago when we said, come on in. Well, they come on in. And so I had to make boundaries with them, like you can't wake me up in the middle of the night. Because one night, Alan and I were in bed, and these 3 soldiers, one was holding his head, wake me up, and I'm like, you're not for me, here for me, are you? You're here for Alan. And I woke Alan up and said, this is your gig, not mine. So literally he woke up and went out into the other room and worked with these 3 soldiers who he was in combat with in a past life as their commander.
Wow.
Yeah, so those experiences are quite normal in my life.
Now, do you remember the first message you received from a soul that had crossed over?
Oh, gee. Well, like I said, with my friend Mary, her aunt said tell them. But I would go out in those days. I would go out and I'd be sitting, getting my hair done, and a dead guy would pop in and say, will you tell my wife I'm okay? And I'm going, it doesn't work that way. I don't, do that. But you can see me. And I said, yeah, but, and of course this is all going on intuitively. They send us these thought forms. I'm like, but I just can't look at your wife and tell her that your husband's standing here and,
He wants you to know he's just fine.
Right, yeah, yeah. And
so you weren't willing to...
I had to make boundaries
What
with
I'm
people.
sure people
birth in the
pop
spirit.
in their head is the Long Island medium.
Yeah, I had to make boundaries with
You
that,
did.
and I don't call myself a medium, but after being at Lilydale, yeah, I easily talk to dead people. But I don't do readings for that specific purpose.
Right.
I want to help people live the best life they can live.
Yes.
And if that means somebody needs to come in who is birthed in the spirit, that'll just naturally come into my reading. And they do.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
You've mentioned the school. Referred to it as the school a couple times. Tell me about your school. When did you start it? What was it called?
I woke up. Like I said, that would have been, I was 51. I woke up. Alan and I had been together about a year. I woke up and they said, you're going to have a school of spiritual healing. I'm like, really? Yep, and this is what you're going to teach. And literally, I downloaded everything from a dream, wrote it to Catherine Bond, Christopher Bond, and Alan. I said, we're going to have a school of spiritual healing. And this is what we're going to teach. And within 6 weeks, I had the manual, that big. You've seen the manual.
Mm-hmm.
That big, created. And we had 2 classes, one in, was it Paoli?
Paoli.
And one in York. We had about 30 students, and it was all from a dream. I had never thought about having a school of spiritual healing. Never. Many beautiful students have come through the school.
How many students do you think you have taught?
Oh,
just from the school.
Oh, gosh.
I know there's so many more out there now.
150, 200 from the school.
From the school?
Yeah.
From the school.
I think we had it about 8 years.
I was going to say, how long was it open? What made you close the school?
Alan died.
And you didn't want to do it without him?
Well, Anna came in.
Here we go.
2013. Now, you mentioned the circles I do.
Mhm.
And so when I was 48, so that would have been 16, 17, 18 years ago, I knew about Anna, but I thought of Anna as my higher self. And everything I taught happened from me going to sleep. I'm a dreamer.
Mhm.
I dream it, I wake up, I have my books, I have my work that I'm supposed to do. I have my messages. One day, I woke up in 2013, November, and I texted Alan. I had a client coming, and I texted Alan, and I said, "Can you come up for this reading?" He's like, "You've never asked me to come up for an appointment." I said, "Don't ask me questions. Just come up. Bring your recorder." And I even texted my client and said, "Could we do a phone reading?" And she's like, "No, I want to come." And I knew when I woke up that that was the day that it was going to happen. And Anna came in. Anna is a group of 976 souls whom I've since really integrated, and we share a steady stream of consciousness. And in the beginning, now, we left out something really important I think that people need to understand is through the years from especially 40 to even now, I went through a lot of activations, and I thought I was prepared for these activations because Metatron had given me some. It was called Metatron's Fire. When I was 50, I was at a silent retreat, 5 days of silence. Can you imagine me being silent? I loved it. Oh my God, I loved it. But my spiritual director was sitting right across from me, almost as close as you, but sitting this way. And he was reading scripture to me. And all of a sudden I felt this fire. I mean fire coming forth from my heart. And I cried out and opened my eyes, and he said, "Oh my God, are you all right? What was that?" And he saw flames coming out of my heart. He literally, now this was a normal Lutheran minister.
Wow.
And he went to the Catholic priest and said, "What did I just witness?" And they had big words for it. I call it the divine fire of Christ.
Okay.
Because I'm a Jesus girl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Christ consciousness girl. And that's something else that I hide. Because people think if you don't go to church every Sunday and you don't call yourself a Christian, you can't be connected to Jesus. Well, let me tell you, I love Jesus, and he continues to teach me. My dad was on his birthing in the spirit bed, and my dad was a devout Christian. And one day he said, he woke up, I teach people how to go back and forth as they're birthing in the spirit. And Daddy woke up and said, "I met the real Jesus." And he said, "Jesus is nothing like they taught me in the church." And that was a lot coming from a man who loved Jesus and the church with all his heart.
Wow.
But he got it, he got it. So I've gone through a lot of different activations. Anna comes in on that November day, 2013. I give the reading, my eyes are closed, a lot of heat coming down through my crown chakra down in my spine. I remember rocking like this, and it hurt. The energy hurt. It was electrifying, to say the least. I don't remember anything I said in that first reading. In fact, for the first 6 months, I would wear glasses when I would open my eyes because it burnt, my eyes burnt. Because when I shift and I merge with Anna, I'm with them. And coming into this, it's very light over in the higher planes of consciousness. It's surreal. But coming back to this light is very harsh. I don't know if I can explain it, but it hurt my eyes really bad. And people were concerned the first 6 months after Anna came in. They weren't sure that my body was going to be able to handle all the energy that was coming in, all the fire. Mm-hmm. So it was definitely a rough time. Alan was really, really concerned. I started writing books. A week later, I would wake up. I started writing books. Within that first 6 months, I wrote Conscious Construction of the Soul and Into the Light and Birthing in the Spirit. And Alan was instrumental in helping me get them written, not written, but into create space. Mm-hmm. And I remember in September of that year. Now, go back a couple of years. Alan had told me on our first date that he was going to die around the age of 71. Well, I said, well, we at least had 12 good years together. What the heck, And so in September, he downloaded my books into Create Space, and he looked at me and said, "I'll never be able to help you with another book." He said, "It took everything I could to focus." And you could see, looking back, long story short, November first, Alan and I are sitting 2014. Anna has now been in my life for almost a year. We've written books together. I've integrated them. And I'm sitting there holding Alan's hand, watching NCIS, and I hear, as clear as I'm speaking to you, Katie, Alan's going to die and leave you. 3 more times, Katie, Alan's going to die and leave you. I looked at Alan and went, duck. He's going to die. I could see he didn't hear anything, and so that I would have talked to him the next day. We finished watching NCIS. I pushed it out of my mind. We went back to bed. He tucked me in, kissed me as he always did. Went out into the other room to meditate. Came back in. We cuddled. He kissed me. 3 hours later, I woke up. He wasn't in bed. Long story short, he had had a stroke. And I kept hearing, it has been written. It has been written. And so we get him to the hospital, and one day, it was Sunday, his kids were there, and they had gone to get something to eat, and he put his hand on my cheek. And he said, maybe I can stay. I'm really happy now. And I said, I think your soul has other plans, because I kept hearing, it has been written. On Monday, they told me to go home. I'd been with Alan for 48 hours, nonstop. And they told me to go home, that Tuesday was going to be the day. And I went home because I knew he needed to be with Jenny, his daughter. Now, I didn't tell Jenny and them that it was what I was hearing. So they still had a lot of hope. I went home and went to Dreamland where they could take care of me and get me ready. That morning, Tuesday morning, I got his slippers. I was going to take his slippers, and they said, and again, when I say they, the angels, my soul, world of spirit, they said, you don't need the slippers. Alan won't be using them. And I remember throwing them from this wall to that wall. Lloyd took me up. Long story, you know, you were there.
I was there.
You were there. Alan birthed into spirit, and we surrounded his body with love and stayed there in that room for a while. And my life was forever changed. And then I guess I got home here about 8 o'clock that night. And Alan pops in. Kay, can you hear me? I'm like, I can hear you, Alan. He says, Kay, it's amazing here. I'm everywhere and I'm nowhere. I'm like, are you kidding me? and I said, you just died. And he's like, just? And I said, yeah, I'm hurting here. And so we wrote a book together called Soul Love Never Ends. And it's about my journey through grief and his journey in the afterlife and how amazing it is there, you know? And he was really happy that I could hear him. So that was in and of itself a journey.
That had to be difficult for you. You're grieving, and he's so excited to share with you how things are from the other side.
He was happy, man. Because Alan lived to ascend. He ascended. And through Alan's teaching to this day, we know him as Cepheus, Master Cepheus. You know, he's the weaver of weavers. He's amazing, and he teaches you.
He does.
You know, he still teaches. And so as I'm going through my grief, I'm still writing books. I'm still integrating Anna, and you know, going out more and more out into that space that I love. I love being in the higher planes of consciousness. It's always been a place of beauty and easy for me to be out there. And then they started saying, no, dear one, you've got to spend more time on the physical. And at one point, Alan, I got a letter from Katye Hope. She has an amazing store down in Myrtle Beach. And she wrote, she had never met Alan. She only met me, I think, once. And she sent me this letter from Alan, and Alan said he was sorry that he was hanging around so much, that he had everything and more that he needed there, but he had to let me go. And he had to let me go so I could find true love again. So all this is happening as Anna keeps coming in and more messages.
She's
from
just
Anna,
relentless.
you know? But I knew that and in fact, I knew that before Alan died. You know, when you talk about the timing of soul, and I believe that the soul creates, and in fact, we talk about that, you know, in a lot of classes, that our souls create a life plan. Mm-hmm. And I don't have any doubt that Alan was supposed to be with me, and Johnny died 2 years before Alan did, and that Johnny and Alan were supposed to be with me to help me integrate Anna, and that living in this cocoon of a world helped me bring in the higher light. You know, I wasn't tainted. Not that things didn't happen to me, crap happened. But I always believed in love. I always believed in love. The power of love. And so, Alan burst into spirit. I keep integrating more of Anna. The messages keep coming. And my process is I get up around 3 in the morning. I just write. I'm like, there's my writer's chair. And I just write. And currently right now, I'm writing 3 books. I started a new one this morning. You know, so I'm writing Conscious Construction of the Soul Volume 2. The World Has Changed. Why haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really working on a small book of the 7 planes of consciousness of Earth.
Okay.
Yeah, because we need to understand that more about what happens on these different planes. And I've never heard
Absolutely
any
agree.
teacher teach about the 7 planes of consciousness on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Anna just brings in this wealth of information, and they just, you know, these souls are merging together to bring us the best of what they know on how to help us move through these times of the shift. I mean, if you're in a physical body right now, you're here to help Earth shift into an old way of being,
Mm-hmm.
which Earth used to be a planet of love. We weren't a planet of have and have not. And now this unraveling that we're going through doesn't feel comfortable to people.
No.
But we are going through an unraveling process, and Anna has a lot to say about it. And I know a lot of their teachings confuse people and anger people.
Mm-hmm.
Because they, I remember I was at a workshop, and this woman came. She wanted to know how to love her mother-in-law better. What was wrong with her that she couldn't love her mother-in-law? And Anna looked at her and said, throw your mother-in-law off the boat. And this woman was shocked. And Anna said, I'll never forget that it is kinder to throw someone off the ship and give them an opportunity to grow than to hold them in your space with contempt and hate. Throw them off the boat. Free them so they have an opportunity, because when you don't, you both drown. And that woman, that was not what she wanted to hear.
It was not.
I
can remember the
Anna brings a
workshop.
lot of humor into the situation.
She does, thank goodness.
They do. They, you know.
I can remember the first time Anna said, prayer doesn't help anything.
Oh, that upset so
Oh,
many
my
of
goodness.
you. Oh my gosh.
Energetically, the room erupted.
Yeah.
She needs to elaborate, that's all. They need to elaborate.
Well, and when they do, you get it.
yes. But
if you're willing to
drop
move,
that one and
if
then
you're
carry
willing to
on
move,
was
well,
like, whoa,
you know,
wait a minute.
we have been printed for eons that we can pray to some God and he's going to save us.
Right.
And
what was their point?
linear thinking, you know, we are taught linear thinking that good people, good things happen,
Mm-hmm.
and bad people, bad things. And we all know that's not true.
Exactly.
You know, and so their point was in prayer was, you know, that alone is not going to shift anything.
That alone is
Right.
not going to shift
Divine,
anything.
you know, we use prayer as a form of connecting, as communicating. But most people pray selfishly. They use God and angels as fairy godmothers. Abracadabra, if I do this, and if I'm good enough, you'll make this happen. That's not the way it works.
No. You need
But that's
action.
what we believe.
Well, not all of us anymore.
Not anymore, because
There's a-
you've heard
there's a
Anna
shift.
speak long enough. You know?
There's a shift.
I mean, I'll tell you, when they introduce some of these concepts to me, I have to work, and I don't post everything they say.
Mm-hmm.
I still have infants being burned at the stake from past lives and hung for speaking my truth. So I still don't post everything that Anna, that I write. I will eventually.
Right.
You know, like this new book, Conscious Construction Volume 2. I'm amazed at what's coming out. I can't wait to bring that book and onto the planet. And hopefully, Stephen's taking me away for 2 weeks, and I will be finished with at least 2 of those books when we come back.
Excellent. Now, what is the difference? I would think some people are, because I know when I tried to explain Anna to my family and friends, their immediate question is, oh, so she channels. And I say, no, it's different. What's the difference?
People who channel always say that it's coming outside of themselves.
Okay.
And many times they don't remember, and with Anna and I, Anna likes to say, I am their heart.
You're part of the team.
Yeah.
You're part of the team.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say in the beginning when you didn't remember, was that more channeling just to get the body prepared for the energy?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's evolved into
Sharing a steady stream of
Sure.
consciousness. And, we all are capable of connecting with spirit. And we're all capable of connecting with angels and guides and ascended masters.
Do you feel you heal people?
Am I healing? Or do I heal people? I don't heal anybody. No. They do the healing. I set up the energies and I hold space, but they have to step in and own it and allow it. But I don't heal anybody.
Excellent. Now you were a practitioner. You gave energy
Oh
sessions.
my God,
You
yeah.
loved
Till
it.
they told me I couldn't anymore.
When did they tell you to stop?
December 2013, about 3 weeks after Anna came in, they said, put the table away. And I love doing that. And I made a lot more money doing that than I do from selling books. Let me tell you, it's been a struggle.
The struggle is real.
It's been a struggle. And Lloyd would say, that's a limiting belief. No, that's reality.
That's
I
true.
made a lot more money from doing energy work and having private clients one-to-one, having them come and lay my hands on them and work with them. But they told me to put the table away and to focus on teaching and writing the books. That I'm the teacher of soul. And I claim that now. I am the teacher of soul.
Mhm.
Stephen once said, are you a teacher of soul? I said, no, I'm the teacher of soul. I claim it, I own it, I embrace it. Along with Anna, we're here to transform the world from old outdated beliefs and patterns to beliefs that will take us back into that way of love.
That sounds great. I love that. How do you feel about being Katie Anna, and are you comfortable identifying as Katie Anna 24/7?
Am I comfortable? I am comfortable being Katie Anna. Am I comfortable being Katie Anna? I am Katie Anna.
It's who you are.
It's who I am. But when I'm with family and friends, I just like to be called Kate. Because
Or mom.
remember that girl that was on the playground? Maybe I didn't share. They were mean girls, and they made fun of me. And there's still a part of me that wants to appear to be normal.
Mhm.
And so I remember one time my brother George, we did an event, and he was there, and I was holding several different people in my lap. And he said, you need to film that. The people need to see what you do. You see what we do at Mago.
Mhm.
I couldn't do it without you guys, my team. And my brother said, people need to see what you do. And I'm like, I'll never film that. People will never see what I do unless they come to a live event.
Right.
You'll never see it on Facebook. You'll never see it. It's too holy.
Mhm.
It's holy work. It's transformational work. Jay out at Mago said that we do deep traumatic release work at Mago.
Mhm.
And I agree with that. And we will never film that. That is just too. So that's what stops me from getting our messages out. I don't think that will. We create sacred space for people to heal, and heal they do.
Mhm.
Heal
They do. They do. So,
So to answer your question, am I comfortable being Katie Anna 24/7? I am Katie Anna 24/7. But when I'm with my lover in bed, or when I'm with my kids, I just want to be Kate or Honey or Mom.
or mom. Mom is nice.
Maybe that's me still holding on to parts of my personality persona. But I am in a physical body, and I do have a personality.
Yes, you do. A very strong personality.
Yes, I do. Yeah. And so, but I am.
And
I'm
isn't
comfortable.
that okay?
Yeah, I'm so ready to step up and let the world see Anna. Katie Anna, I'm ready.
Now, when you post things on Facebook, you'll post like a Anna Speaks meme.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between Anna Speaks and Katie Anna?
I call them Anna-isms.
Okay.
Those things that I have as Anna Speaks, they come right out of Anna,
Okay.
the collective.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I could do Katie Anna Speaks, but I think people need to understand, when they see me as a human,
Mm-hmm.
and Anna, and I am still human. Now, I'm a Homo spiritus. I'm not a Homo sapien anymore. I'm a Homo spiritus.
That's different than a homosexual.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm not a homosexual either anymore. Although I am bisexual.
All kinds of transitions.
I'll try, but no, I am a Homo spiritus.
So what does that mean?
A Homo spiritus means I'm capable of holding more light into a physical form.
Okay. So it is a physical transition in your physical body?
Yeah.
Okay.
The
And that
body
came
changes.
from the activations that you
That
received.
came from the activations and Anna fully integrating. Oh boy,
Okay.
that was painful.
Yeah.
Fire, lots of fire.
You are a fiery
Yeah,
personality.
but so the Anna Speaks is my way of letting people know these are clear messages that come directly
straight from them.
Anna-isms.
Okay.
You know how they talk.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. That was a question I had with those.
There you go.
So, you were a good little Lutheran girl. You were gonna be a deaconess.
Yep.
All of a sudden, bam, that's gone.
I became a lesbian for a while.
Yeah, you
Instead of
did.
Deaconess.
Woo!
That was a good time in my life.
Now you have your new other,
Yes, Stephen.
and he is a retired Lutheran minister.
No, Presbyterian.
Oh, sorry,
my.
Presbyterian.
He's a Presbyterian.
Sorry, Stephen.
Yeah. Oh God.
How does that whole Lutheran world that you came from blend with
Well,
spirituality?
Stephen said it well. On one of our first dates, Stephen said, "I love God, me, and he loves God with all that we are. We use different language to express it." And he said he wanted to learn my language because I knew his language as a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't know my language of spirituality. And he sure didn't know Anna. He was terrified of meeting them. He didn't know what was going to happen.
They speak truth.
Because he had heard that we see into people's souls.
Uh-huh.
Now, I can do that all by myself. As a reader, I can, but, we've integrated so much, I don't think you can separate me from Anna at this point.
Now, the biggest way you can separate when you're physically with you is the fact that when you merge with
And I
Anna,
merged with Anna.
there is an English accent,
Well, whatever kind of accent.
and your face changes.
That's what they tell me.
No, it does. The physical appearance of your face changes, and your voice changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's just shape-shifting.
Mm-hmm.
We all do it. We all do shape-shifting. But yeah, Stephen has been a godsend. People after Alan died said I'd never love again, but I knew that wasn't true.
Mm.
I knew that if my soul planned for me to have someone as amazing as Alan Clark for all those years, that I would have somebody else amazing in my life.
Right.
And Stephen and we're going to write some books at some point called The Mystic and the Preacher Man. Because, and we'll do some Facebook Lives and stuff, because he does come from a different world than I. He was a minister for 40 years. And now he's in this world.
I love how open he is. He has
very,
just walked in, and he is completely open to whatever comes his
Now,
way.
he had fear about hearing Anna speak. He didn't know what they were going to say to him.
Everybody has fear about Anna.
Is that true?
I think in the beginning, yes. Just because they,
I'm looking at Jenny,
they
like,
speak
is that
truth. They speak
Well,
truth.
the difference from Anna and the difference from me is I will temper it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't.
No.
They don't.
No.
But they speak in love.
I was going to say, they speak in love. There's no
They-
ego attached. It comes,
They speak
it
in
just
love.
is.
Yeah.
And they do have a great sense of humor.
Yes, they do.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah. They say seriousness causes reincarnation.
I like that.
So they do have a good sense. They bring discourses and humor and a sincere desire to help us remember. And they bring a lot of energy into the situation.
Yeah, they really do. They really do. You mentioned books.
Mhm.
You've thrown out some titles.
Mhm.
What? Tell your people out there watching how they can find your books and where can they buy them.
Well, here in York, New Visions Books and Gifts sells them. You can go to Amazon.com, Katyanna.
We've shared. Lloyd and I have shared. Some
They've
books.
already shared. There you go.
Okay,
They're already
great.
shared.
How about retreats?
We're having a retreat. They tell me to have these retreats, and angels and ascended masters and Anna, they don't understand money.
They need to
It
get a
costs
grip.
money to
Exactly.
do this stuff, So our end of summer retreat is
Wonderful.
August 31st.
A wonderful teacher once told me, if this is what I am meant to do,
It will be.
show me how to do this.
Show it how to do it.
And
Yep.
you have the money financially to support it.
Yep, I agree. I hear you. Our retreat this end of the summer, people from the East Coast that have a retreat on the East Coast and will come. So we're having it on August 31st to September 3rd at Bond Secure Spiritual Retreat Center, and it's called Conscious Creating Through the Many Transitions of Life. Because we're going through such major shifts right now, we wanted to create a retreat that would give people tools. Like you and Jenny are going to be teaching about light weaving.
Mhm.
Lloyd and Leslie are going to be doing crystal grids and crystal healing. Lana Ryder is going to be there with sound healing. There's going to be workshops for emotional and spiritual growth. I'm going to be introducing my Birthing in the Spirit program there.
What is that?
Birthing in the Spirit is, it's really hard work to come into this world, to be born. Well, it's just as hard work to leave the physical body and everybody you love. And so, while all that was happening in my 40s, I was also going to college and going to, I was a volunteer at the AIDS hospice. Boy, did I get in trouble there all the time. Because back then they didn't know what caused AIDS.
Right.
And I would crawl into bed and hold someone, it would really help
You weren't
them.
afraid of the physical
I
touch.
wasn't afraid of AIDS. And that was when my spiritual gifts, because I wasn't making a tune yet, now that I think about it. I was around all these people that were birthing in the spirit, and that's when I coined it. And I made a decision. I'm glad we went there. I made a decision back when I was 41, 42 years old. Courtney is 24.
Mhm.
So I made a decision 24 years ago, that I was going to help people learn how to live. So when it came time to birth into spirit, they could do so with ease and with grace. Because I saw that people weren't talking about life. How are they going to talk about death? So my Birthing in the Spirit program is all about that. We're going to teach people how to do this, you can call it a meditation or whatever, going into the light, helping people go back and forth. We're going to talk about these things, birthing in the spirit, because consciousness continues after physical death. But we were taught that dead was dead. And remember, on this plane of consciousness, if you believe it, it's going to be. You tell yourself a story long enough, you're going to create it. That's the bottom line.
So, is your program solely focused on the person that is birthing into spirit, or is there things for the family and loved ones?
It's about all the family. It's about anyone who wants to support people birthing into spirit. It's about learning how to sit by that bedside or be in a room with the family members and talk about it. When my sister Debbie died at York Hospital, they invited me to come back and do in-services because they had never seen a family move through the process of taking someone off life support and holding space for her as she birthed in the spirit. And her minister thought I was the she-devil because I remember my sister Debbie saying, now you need to be a sister. And I said, no, Debbie still needs me to help her birth in the spirit. And I went down at her feet, and I, as a seer, I could see what was her process. And at one point I remember saying, wow, I don't know if Debbie's going to hug Daddy or Jesus first. And my nephew Dennis says, Mom sees Jesus. And 20 minutes before my sister birthed in the spirit, she shook her head and smiled. She was seeing Jesus. And so the way that they handled everything, the hospital, and I never did, because Johnny had died, my sister died, it was just so many deaths, and I never went back. So now we're ready to launch this Birthing in the Spirit program. and they can go on katyeanna.com to find out more about that.
Excellent.
And we'll bring it to your town.
Excellent.
We'll bring it to your city.
That's fantastic. You have previously done 2 large retreats in Arizona. Are you planning another one?
Yes. We'll be going back again in April of 2019. And again, that one is a very different retreat than the one that we're doing at Bon Secures. They both rejuvenate, but the one at, like I said, Jay worded it best. That is a retreat that allows people on that very sacred land to bring forth their wounds and pains and release them right then and there. Traumatic release work is what we do. We deal with people who have complicated post-traumatic stress disorder. You name it, they come, and I have the most amazing team in the world. Jenny and Sally and Judy is part of it, my son Lloyd and his wife Leslie, and now we brought on Irma Alicia and Walter. They have both been at retreats, and Walter went through his own rebirth. And so it's 5 days. It's 5 days of amazing grace, isn't it?
It really is.
Now that one we have to limit though. We have to limit that
Yes, we do.
to 40 people. So if you want on the list for next year, let us know now.
All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share? We're at our hour mark.
All right. Do you want 5 minutes from Anna?
Ooh, sure. We'll take 5 minutes from
Wanna
Anna.
take 5 minutes from
Yes.
Anna?
A bonus.
All right. All right, so Judy,
Uh-oh.
this has been very entertaining for us to listen to as you go through the process of Katie's life, and especially how we entered into the picture. Now, you know that as souls, we've been around the block a couple times.
Yes.
We were once like you. We were in physical form, and but we no longer have the desire to go back to be in a body, because we believe we can be of greater service to humankind by collaborating. And this is the message we want to give all of you this evening. Don't despair of what's going on the planet right now. Things are coming out of the shadows, are they not?
They absolutely
All
are.
across the globe. They have to come out of the shadows to be transformed. You see, humankind continue to try to go into the shadows. They just charge in thinking they're going to change something. It doesn't work, does it?
No.
And so what we seek to teach, we base everything on the 3 spiritual keys. They're very simple and they're not new, but spiritual teachers are going to teach you the same thing over and over again until you get it.
Until you get it.
And sometimes it takes thousands of lives to get the message. The message is clear: converge in love. If the experience is not in love, you don't put your energy, you don't put your thoughts there. You simply move away from it. You don't put a bag over your head. People think that we talk about complacency. Then when we talk about nonviolence, we have this thing about don't demonstrate, meditate. And it really pushed people's buttons, because in the era in which we speak, 2018, you're still imprinted with the old outdated beliefs that you have to hammer into existence that which you're trying to change. You don't get it yet. And that's why the 2nd spiritual key is so important. You see, when you take responsibility for your thoughts and your emotions, and the energy you're bringing into every situation, then you can begin to change yourself, and it will have a ripple effect onto the world. Currently, life around you evolves as separation consciousness. You see yourselves as us against them, and we remind you, for those of you who call yourself spiritual, religious, whatever you want to call yourself, if you have hate in your heart or anger in your heart towards another, You're in separation consciousness. You're not in unity consciousness. Do you understand that, dear?
I do understand that.
You get it.
I do.
Well, that's good. That's one person on the planet. It's a good beginning.
We're moving forward.
It's a good beginning. But again, seriously, when you take responsibility for your thoughts and your emotions, and you do not allow yourself to be pulled into the shadow experiences, you do so because you understand the third spiritual key. You know what it is, don't you?
Of course I do.
What is it?
We can only succeed together.
And that means everyone must be invited to the party
Absolutely.
to heal the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It is only through divine collaboration and cooperation among every tribe on the planet, and this is one of the keys that you're missing, and the world of spirit, that will bring the earth planes of consciousness back into what we call the seventh plane consciousness. You're evolving to that. There's some on the earth who are changing the physical form back into the light form. And as this happens, as critical mass is reached, you will begin seeing great shifts on your planet. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be a lot of unraveling. Your responsibility, again, is to take responsibility for your fear. You know, dear, humankind has taken the emotion of fear, which was meant to alert you to some kind of danger, and you've created experiences based on fear. Do you understand that?
Yes.
It's no longer just an emotion. Humankind have grounded fear and then created the experiences from a fear-based mentality.
It's become a way of life.
Yes, and a way of creating. Oh, someone's kissing out there. Oh, it's Katye. It's Katie's
Behave
daughter.
yourself.
All right, well,
Behave.
they're kissing.
Well, that's
Good.
okay.
All right, sorry, we digress. It's good when people love each other.
It is. It's
Whether
very
it's
good.
lovers or whether it's friends. You know, you're not here so much to experience love as an emotion. It's true. You are. But you are a source of love. And so when you stay open to love, no matter what the experience is out there, you have the opportunity to transform yourself. You know, when Katie's Allen birthed into spirit, she went temporarily to the place of the land of the brokenhearted. And she asks what she must do to get out of that place. Do you know what we told her?
What did you tell her?
You must move into your joy. So Katie made a conscious choice every day to wake up and say, even in the midst of this sadness, I will create and experience some kind of joy today. We remind you, your suffering, your grief changes nothing. Grief is meant to be a fluid experience. You know, you have these oxymorons, is that what it's called?
Oxymorons.
Oxymorons.
Morons.
And you say, if you love, you grieve to the extent that you've loved. Now, how ridiculous is that? Again, we don't want to offend people. But you grieve because you're sad. Because someone you've loved is no longer available to you in the physical. You grieve the dreams you had. You grieve that you can't call the person on the telly and talk to them. But you don't grieve because you love. That's something we'd like to change for humanity, to understand that.
Yeah.
So, we invite each and every one of you. Practice the 3 spiritual keys. It's a very little book. You can read it in one setting, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it takes a lifetime to master it.
Exactly.
And so we leave you with this. As we were saying, your grief and suffering, it changes nothing. But your joy, your peace, your happiness has the opportunity to cause a ripple effect onto the entire planet. The times that you're living in requires each and every one of you to be courageous and bold, and to truly take responsibility for not being a reactive creator, but learning how to be a conscious creator. Conscious creators, they observe what's going on and they shift an experience before they're required to. They change something before it's hammered into them that they have to. All right. Is that it?
That's great. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. And again, we want to set the record straight. Katye is the human that we speak through, but she is as much a part of the collective as any of us in physical form. We have said that she is the heart, and that because she shares such emotions, she would be embarrassed of us saying all this about her. But because she shares such emotions, and because she understood from the time she was a little one that God was to be experienced in everything. That's what you're all looking at here. Trying to remember that through everyone and every experience there is God. And again, we realize it's hard for many to understand. So, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to speak. We have much to say, as you know.
Yes, you do.
So we'll see what happens. All right. Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
I wish everybody could feel the love they have for us. We are loved, deeply, deeply loved by the World Spirit. Don't give up. Don't give up on humanity.
We can't.
We have the whole entire universe here to help us transform what we've done to ourselves.
Yes. We're doing it. You're doing it.
There you go.
You're leading the way. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us.
You're welcome.
We are
Divine collaboration.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see
Thank
you
you.
next
We
week.
love you all. Please share this. Judy is doing such a great service by these one-on-ones.
It's
You
been
really
fun.
are.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
She found
It's
her
great
niche.
time.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody.